Welcome to Discover Indie Film. I'm Jeff Howard, and I'm very honored to have Tatiana Blackington James here. Hey.
Hello, Jeff, on this rainy day.
Yes, it is raining, which is kind of extra fun, right? I don't know. I like rain, not just because it forces me to just stay inside a little more. Well, hey, Tatiana's here. We just discussed her life and her film Homologies and her career as a writer. That's the podcast before this one, so you should definitely check it out. You want to see her film Homologies, which is still on the festival circuit, so there will be clickable links and stuff. But this podcast, instead of being an interview, this will be Tatiana answering the Discover Indie Film 4 questions, which are: name 3 favorite films, name an underrated film, name an overrated film, name a lesser known film people should seek out. Just 4 simple questions. Hey, it's just fun to get started. It took me a long time to make sure people understood just name 3 favorites, don't have to be your top 3 of all time. You never know. I know it's really a lot of pressure to come up with a top 3.
No, this was my favorite homework assignment ever.
Nice. Well, you want to just jump in and answer?
Yeah, it was so interesting because I did at one point have this feeling the films that I picked are maybe not arty enough, or maybe they're not on the list of 100 best films. And I started thinking about this Umberto Eco essay that I reread every few years, and it's on Casablanca. And he says, by a lot of objective measures, Casablanca is not a great film, but it's a cult film. It's one of my top 3 films. And, but even the screenwriter, Julius Epstein, said, there's more corn in this script than the state of Kansas. I mean, the story of how the film came together was, I think, somewhat chaotic, and they didn't know what the ending was going to be, and they wrote a few different endings. And Echo says, the way it doesn't know what film it's supposed to be is that every time Victor Laszlo goes to the bar to order a cocktail, he gets a different one. Because he doesn't know what movie he's in. Is it a love triangle? Is it a war movie? Is it something else? And I realized in doing this homework assignment that all of my favorite films are this kind of hodgepodge, this mix of high and low. And then I thought, maybe that's the way cinema is supposed to be, at least for me. Maybe there's not supposed to be this red line between high art and low. I think that's what's wonderful about cinema. And it's not just Casablanca. I mean, my other 2 are Blade Runner, which is also a real mix of, it's kind of a formulaic noir detective story, but it's also sci-fi. It's dystopian and utopian in a way. And I really enjoy naturalistic films too, like Mike Leigh's work. But those aren't the films that just really grab me emotionally and that stick with me and that I could watch over and over. And I think the ones that do fall into this Umberto Eco category. The title of his essay is "The Clichés Are Having a Ball," which is sort of pejorative, but he's not really talking about clichés so much as archetypes. That archetypes are what we really gravitate towards in the movies we love. And my third is the movie Diva by Jean-Jacques Benex. And that one inspired me to basically become the world's biggest Francophile. I became a French major because of that movie. I went to live in Paris because of that movie. I became a screenwriter because of that movie. And, High Low, again, it starts with an opera singer singing an aria. And then a little while later, we have a car chase. It's a total genre hodgepodge, and people didn't know what to do with it. When it first came out, it was not so much a box office failure as it just disappeared. And then it was at this one theater, in Saint-Germain-des-Prés, and word of mouth, people are like, you got to go see this, you got to go see this. And then it became a worldwide sensation. So I guess I love both films and people that are difficult to categorize. And a lot of my heroes they didn't fit in any niche. They were like not quite in step with their times. Whatever artistic movement was going on at the time, they were kind of not really in that category. So I think that's my jam.
I mean, it's a great jam. I was going to say that besides what you said about, there's not a red line. Yeah, and there really shouldn't be a red line between comedy, drama, historical. Like it's so funny because I've loved Casablanca from the first time I saw it. And it's at least in my top 5, my top 3. It's so freaking hard. Well, but I'm always amazed by how not dated it feels to me.
Yeah.
To me, it feels as current as if it is happening now. Somehow, Although
I tried to get my son to watch it, and he was not interested at all.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't see it till college, but interesting.
I mean, I saw it, I think, just on TV when I was a kid, on a weekend or something. And I realized the 3 movies I named are old. And that is because I think when you're past your 20s, at least with me, things don't grab me viscerally in the same way they did when I was young. And I don't think it's because the quality of movies has declined. I just think it has to do with how impressionable we are when we're young.
Yeah, and you'll see newer films. I have a couple newer ones, but by the way, by newer, like they're only 20 years old instead of 40 or 50 years old.
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, what resonates with you as a young person locks in, just like everyone's favorite band is determined in high school, isn't it? I mean...
That's funny because, I'm a child of the 80s and I love 80s music unapologetically. But it's not really what I choose to listen to except every once in a while when I'm feeling nostalgic. I mean, I can move on with music. And,
good. I was going to say, the funny thing is, so Diva and Blade Runner are like barely a year apart, right? As far as when they came out.
Let's see. I think Diva came out in 82, and I don't know when Blade Runner came out.
I think Blade Runner is 81 or 2.
Okay, yeah.
I could look them up, but yeah, like right around, but anyway, I do appreciate you choosing those. And I agree, like, it's funny because a lot of people would say Blade Runner is hard sci-fi, and I guess it is, but there's so much in it about the human condition, about relationships, about technology, all these films. Yeah, human beings are a little too complex to like just have simple story. I mean, simple stories are great, but I like that you like the complexity of humanity and of life and of storytelling.
Well, in a lot of sci-fi, I think people don't speak the way they do in real life it's always this sort of like high-minded kind of like you're in a great hall and the king is holding forth, that, you know, it's very philosophical. But in Blade Runner, the guy's like Harrison Ford's like this gumshoe that talks like an ordinary person.
Yeah.
And that creates a beautiful contrast, I think.
It really does. And like you said, it's noir, but it's futuristic, but it's current, but it also gives us a glimpse of a multicultural society that's even more blended than we are now. Like it's just whatever. It's kind of a perfect film. The funny thing is, I've had to sit here and smile when I've had a person or two tell me on this podcast that they like Blade Runner 2049 more than the first one, and I'm like, okay, I'll just lift my chin off the floor.
Yeah, not in that category.
Didn't work for me.
You know, David Peoples did not write the later one, and I think it shows. I think he's a genius screenwriter, and his, as you say, I mean, his humanity was missing from the second one for me.
Oh, I won't get into shitting on the second one. I just, although amusingly, okay, I should let you go faster, but do you have a favorite version of Blade Runner? Because I've seen like too many cuts.
I like them both. I like the director's cut, and I like the voiceover and the not voiceover. I like it all.
Like it all?
Yeah.
All right, I guess I was cheesy. I do have one, but I don't think you can see it.
Oh.
Which is, when I was in college, they released a director's cut that wasn't Ridley's. Like the studio just put out one that sort of fixed the ending, I think. Well, they got rid of the voiceover at the end, I think. I forget what was different, but they released that in theaters, and then when Ridley Scott saw that, he said, wait a minute, I want to do my real director's cut. Mm-hmm. And actually, there was that middle one that I think disappeared that I enjoyed the most. But it's all, like, I'm with you. Every version has been great.
His director's cut is quite long, but
yeah.
wasn't
And he
too
throws
long for
in
me.
the throws in the unicorn from Legend or whatever.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Anyway, brilliant film. All three films are wonderful. Although if I saw Diva, I don't remember it well enough. I got to jump back. But I totally remember when it came out, and I remember it being a really kind of a sensation, right? Like once it clicked in with audiences.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. All right. Well, you want to name your underrated film?
So I went back and I rewatched this yesterday. And I was like, my God, this film is bonkers. People are going to think I'm crazy when I bring it up. But I still love it, even though I now realize how bonkers it is. And it's a film from 1976, and it's Brian De Palma, and it's called Obsession. Have you seen it?
I haven't.
Apparently, Hitchcock was furious when it came out because he thought it was a ripoff of Vertigo. But it's so much more twisted, I think. And it's Paul Schrader, who wrote Taxi Driver. He's the screenwriter. And the score is by Bernard Herrmann, who did all of Hitchcock's movies. And it's Bernard Herrmann's favorite score that he wrote. Bernard Herrmann loved this movie. He was madly in love with Geneviève Bujold, who plays the lead, and lead girl part, as they used to say, and he actually apparently had quite a lot of input on the script. He influenced De Palma to shorten it and change the ending, and said, no, the movie's over here. It's all done here. This is the end. You don't need that other part. But it, and it stars John Lithgow, who plays a Southerner with like this absolute foghorn leghorn accent. And he's so good. I've never not loved John Lithgow in anything.
Agreed.
And every shot is just a painting. Parts of it are shot in Florence and in a town in Tuscany called San Gimignano. Which if you ever go there, they have a museum of torture, which is also quite twisted. It's good to check out. It's the history of torture devices. That has nothing to do with the movie, except it's twisted also. But it's, this movie it's overwrought. It's super Freudian. It's kind of operatic. But the shots are so beautiful and the actors are so great that you just go with it. At least I did. And it has these scenes that I think if I were a screenwriting teacher, I would bring to class to say, okay, see this? Like, this is how you make a scene do double duty. See this? This is how you add tension. Like there's this wonderful scene where, so it's about a kidnapping, right? Cliff Robertson is this kind of upstanding, loving husband, and his wife and daughter get kidnapped. And he's told, it's set in New Orleans. And he's told he has to get on one of these, is it like a steamboat, the one with the wheel that churns the water? Is that what you call it?
Yeah.
On the Mississippi, he has to get on one of these boats, and he has to throw a suitcase of money onto an abandoned dock. And so he has this suitcase, and he gets on the boat, and all the other passengers on the boat are Boy Scouts on an outing. And they're about like 10 or 11 years old, all these Boy Scouts in their uniforms, and they're so excited to be on a field trip, and they're running around and laughing and talking, and here's Cliff Robertson, stone-faced, worried about the life of his wife and daughter, and just having those Boy Scouts on the boat adds so much tension to the scene. And there are lots of little, just brilliant filmmaking touches in it.
For sure. Now I really want to see it. I don't think I saw it. And I had a little De Palma phase, right? Because I remember when we all got into like Body Double and some other stuff. But yeah. Okay, cool. Very good. Certainly underrated. And it's totally, what do you say? It's totally bizarre? Or it has, no, you used a different adjective.
Well, I think operatic is the best.
Yeah, well, it is, right?
Mean,
he was a very, the Hitchcock influences were always there.
Yeah.
In his work, probably forever.
It's very spare. There's no extra dialogue at all. It is not a talky film. So it's not operatic in that sense, but just in terms of the like it has elements of Greek tragedy. Again, it's sort of a high-low mashup, I would say.
All his stuff, I think, was always a bit high-low, right?
Yeah.
Because, he gets into really schlocky material, and then he's very high-handed or very cultural. Yeah. No, I get it. Okay. I'm gonna move you along because I'm very excited to hear your overrated film.
Okay, like I told you when we were chatting before this, I don't trash other filmmakers or artists, but I kind of feel like this one is so punching up that I'm entitled, and it's Titanic. I went to see Titanic with a friend opening weekend, and at the end we turned to each other and we were like, poor James Cameron, that's really gonna bomb.
Oh, you thought it wouldn't resonate with anybody?
No,
It wasn't the sensation
we
yet.
thought it was terrible and ridiculous and so simplistic and like the class warfare thing. And but what I really didn't like about it was I write a lot of historical fiction and believe me, I take a lot of liberties. I do composite characters. I mess with the timeline. But one thing I really try not to do is to slander people who actually lived. And he really did that. You know, I mean, he took people who had been heroic and self-sacrificing and turned them into villains just because they were rich or like he needed more conflict or so he thought. And like these were real people that lived not that long ago and they have descendants. And I just thought that was kind of a shitty thing to do.
I'm with you. I mean, I haven't seen it since I saw it in Westwood, like when it came out.
Yeah.
But it definitely was already, I saw it a couple weeks into the sensation. I think it was already like the biggest movie ever by the time I saw it. I tend not to want to see those movies.
Yeah.
But I get it. I get why people loved it, but I don't know. Fair enough. You are allowed to punch up.
All right.
And as I often say, I didn't even have to say it for you, but I often say, like, just because you're saying a film is overrated, you're just saying the critical praise is like for me, it's often a film I love, but I'm like, I love that film, but that filmmaker has 5 that are better, and why does everyone praise the one that's like their 5th best? But anyway.
Yeah. Well, I may not have totally understood the assignment. And
No, you got it perfectly.
I actually don't know what the critical reaction to it was. I don't remember.
Well, it was nominated for Did it win Best Picture? It might have.
Oh God, I hope not.
It was nominated for shit. It was pretty. You know, now maybe in retrospect, but I think it's a.
But audiences loved it. So
it was huge.
Overrated in that sense.
Huge.
They're all wrong, and I'm right.
Yes. I totally agree. All right. Last one, and you've actually, in a way, it's funny because Diva almost covers it, but what's a lesser-known film that people should seek out?
This is one that I saw on a plane, and it's more recent, so you can, it's just like 2 years old or something. It's a German film, and it's called I'm Your Man. Have you seen it?
No.
And it's about AI. So it stars Dan Stevens from Downton Abbey. He played Matthew, and Sandra Hüller from Anatomy of a Fall. She's the main character, and he's the AI robot. And it's a love story. And it's just really a great script, and we always mention the writer, don't we? So the credited writers are Maria Schrader, the director, but also Jan Schomburg. My German is not good at all, so I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Based on a short story by Emma Breslavsky. I'm Your Man.
Now I'm wondering if I did. I may or may not live with a huge fan of that actor.
Oh, Dan Stevens?
Dan Stevens is he's pretty dreamy.
He is very dreamy.
Yeah. I get it. It's cool.
And apparently speaks fluent German.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The German-British connection is way tighter than people, I think those world wars kind of threw us off of the German-Jewish connection, but they're really I said German-Jewish. German-British connection.
Uh-huh.
Because, they're actually really tight. I mean, they share royal families and shit.
Yes, they do.
In fact, all the royals are German, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go figure. All right. Well, excellent list. And gives me homework. I definitely got to see. If I didn't see I'm Your Man, now I got to. And I got to revisit Diva. And Obsession. And I'll continue to avoid rewatching Titanic. Also, I'm not a fan of Celine Dion. What can I say? I can't get her You say the word Titanic and I start hearing her voice.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, me too.
You know, I'm with you. All right. Well, hey, we can wrap it up.
Thank you for the best homework assignment ever. So fun.
Excellent. Thank you. That's such a nice reaction because half the time people sit down in front of that microphone and go, this was so hard. I hated doing this. Why do I have to do this? And I'm like, you don't have to, but it's kind of fun. It's fun.
Or they say, can I have more? Can I have 5? Can I have 10?
Actually, and you can. and I'm like, you want to name 2 more? Name 2 more. I'm not going to stop you. You know, it's favorites. It's funny because there's a filmmaker actually based in France, and he wanted to interview me for the 100th episode.
Uh-huh.
We never got our act together. So actually, if someone goes deep on this podcast, it goes from 99 to 101 because I'd saved number 100 for him to interview me. And I was like, well, if I'm answering it, maybe I'll do three favorites, high school, college, like I was going to do like every decade of my life what my 3 favorite films are from that decade.
Uh-huh.
Because, yeah, I have a hard time too. Like, how do I pick favorites? But
you have to be interviewed. That would be so good.
it'd be fun, right?
How come it never happened?
Oh, because he's a super talented digital artist who does like Evian commercials and things for the United Arab Emirates, and he just works too hard and never got around to it.
My kids are obsessed with this YouTuber named Caleb Hammer. Do you know who Caleb Hammer is?
I barely know what YouTube is.
I guess he's like, I don't know if he's a millennial or Gen Z. He's about 30. But anyway, he gives financial advice to people who've gotten themselves into debt. And he does these financial audits. And he's always, shaming them for, usually for buying taquitos. He's based in Austin. Go through their credit card bill going, taquitos. But then one day he had a financial audit of his own. He went to like another person like him, another YouTuber like him, and got his own self audited. And wouldn't you know, he broke a lot of his own rules. Just like you did with the adding the films.
Oh, I will totally break my own rules. or I'll be loyal. It's up to the interviewer. It's funny, every once in a while Jean-Marie, apologize to you, but every once in a while I think of like auctioning it off. Say, okay, who wants to take the lovely Jean-Marie Marbach's place? It was his idea to interview me, but he has had 3 years and we haven't done it. Every once in a while we message each other about doing it. It just doesn't happen.
Well, I might steal his job if he doesn't get on it.
Feel free. Anyway, I could just do a whole nother podcast where everyone. All right, I'll shut up so we can wrap this up. It's always nice to get these 4 questions done in about half an hour, and we're right at 28 minutes. We're perfect. This is perfect for the people with shorter attention spans. All right, well, you just listened to Tatiana Blackington James, which I didn't say in the first thing, but I love your name. I think your name is so cool.
Thank you. People used to ask me if I had made it up when I first moved here, but I swear I didn't. My mother made it up.
And Blackington James, you grew up Blackington, or are you Blackington and then James came from marriage?
Tatiana Blackington is my maiden name, and James is my married name.
Right, but what a nice flow. It's got a nice flow. You married well for name-wise.
And otherwise, too.
I'm sure. Actually, he's a very handsome man. He came to the festival, and I was like, hey, nice-looking guy. Anyway, you can let him know I was struck by his looks.
He has a reason to listen to this podcast now.
He does. That's from a fellow... Well, whatever. Is it cheesy to say, like, from one straight man to another, I think you're handsome?
No, I think that's cool.
Yeah, there we go. All right, well, you can learn about Tatiana and her film if you go to homologiesshortfilm.com, and it's at homologiesshortfilm on social media. And now it's time for me to just blab about the shit I do. This is the Discover Indie Film Podcast. It gave birth to a TV series. If you want to learn more about either, go to discoverindiefilm.com. It's at DIFwins on social media. That TV series I casually mentioned, it's on Amazon Prime Video. It's short films handpicked from the festival circuit. The podcast gave birth to it because people kept coming on the podcast, and everyone who had a feature was on streaming, and everyone who had a short was like, well, it's on YouTube now. So I said, wait, let's put a bunch of shorts together and put them on Amazon Prime Video Direct. And it worked. It was awesome. And I won't go on any further. But at DIF Wins social media, Tatiana's film Homologies won 2 awards at the Sherman Oaks Film Festival that we hold at the end of every November. You can learn more at ShermanOaksFF.com, and it's at ShermanOaksFF on social media. Its sister festival, Film Invasion Los Angeles, we hold every June. That's FilmInvasionLA.com, and it's at FilmInvasionLA on social media. And finally, because I have no respect for my personal time, last year I started a thing called TVHi. It's a smart TV app on Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Apple TV, Android TV, iPhone, and Android mobile. And it's awesome films that are just great to watch. And the website is watchtvhi.com because they're awesome, and they're also extra good to watch if you use cannabis responsibly. That's why it's called Watch TV High. Okay. But amusingly, I've had people say to me, aren't all films better if you... And I say use it responsibly because I have friends in recovery, but...
Oh, God, there are probably some films you should not watch high.
There are a lot of films.
David Cronenberg, I don't think you want to go there.
I do not. I am definitely... I've learned to appreciate horror because ever since the kid turned 13 and went to a sleepover, she came back and said, I only watch horror movies now. So, like, actually during COVID, every Friday, I told her, okay, Friday and Saturday are horror night. We'll watch 2 horror films every weekend. But I'm not going to watch horror 7 days a week.
Oh, I couldn't do it.
But I've learned to appreciate horror through her. But yeah, when I am enjoying what I consider responsible cannabis use in a place where it's legal for someone my age, I can tell you the first thing, I do not want to watch horror when I'm high. I want comedy or something really beautiful and artsy. I really love the beautiful artsy stuff.
Yeah.
But I really love comedy, stand-up comedy too. Sometimes I just say, is that the funniest person who ever lived? Or is it because the edibles have kicked in? Anyway, I'll shut the fuck up now. Tatiana, thank you for coming over.
Jeff, it was such a great way to spend a rainy day.
It is. When the rain really hit like 5 minutes ago, I'm like, ooh, I wonder if the mics are picking up that rain. All right. Thank you, Tatiana, and thank you, everyone, for listening.